A little bit after 4, so I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I'm assuming we'll have a few other folks join us, and as they come in, we'll make sure to acknowledge them. Welcome to the third meeting between GNEA and the Board of Education for negotiation purposes. I want to start by thanking Deb Starling, taking notes and keeping us on track, and Patrick from the Tech Department for being here to help with technology. I'll do a quick roll call here. Looks like Robbie Smith is here from Nike. Bev Furlong is here from Sunflower. Angela Hansen is here from Pioneer Ridge. Mandy Taylor's here from Trail Ridge. Leslie Ron is here from the high school. Corey, we know where Corey's at, coaching baseball. Tom Redden, board president, is here. Greg Chapman, board vice president, is here. Lana Sutton sends her regrets. Brian Huff is here. Bruce Haber is here from Nike. Denise Russillo is here from Trail Ridge. Tony Taylor, I'm guessing, will join us later from the high school. Amy D. is here, Executive Director of Business and Finances. Not even going to try it anymore. I'm Jody Marshall from the district office. Observing, we have Nora Smith from the high school, Leah Bates from Wheat Ridge, and Carrie Owing from Sunflower, and Jenny Adrian from Edgerton Elementary. Again, thanks for everybody coming. The agenda is up here on the screen, pretty straightforward. I've done the welcome. Now I'd like to jump into non-compensation items. Before I turn it over or ask GNEA what items they might have, I do want to provide follow-up on flex days. Let me grab my handout real quick. So we agreed in principle to the flex days, and we've actually advertised those, and GNEA had rightfully asked to make sure that the district office, Ed Services in particular, provide direction so folks know as early as possible, including this spring, about what their options would be this summer and this fall. And I will tell you that we've got this in the right hands. Dr. Jones and Ed Services, and working with the PDC reps, they have drafted a very thorough document, and they would like a few more days to get this out, but they'll send out this document that's very thorough, explains options, opportunities, rules of the road. So this will go out, I'm going to tell you, probably the 1st of May, and then they're going to follow up multiple times before the year is over, and make sure, again, people get this information multiple times, multiple ways, and have plenty of time to ask questions. So the description will include a calendar of opportunities and events, of course, and activities and PD opportunities and materials and resources. And then again, Jason and Ed Services is going to hit staff multiple times. A handout, email. They'll even probably send out a video. They'll make sure principals have the information at the end of the year to hand to teachers when they leave. So again, going to be very thorough and provide multiple exposures to the information. Okay? So just want to let you know we're on the case. All right? Any questions? Okay. At this point, GNEA, would you like to take the floor and present any items?
Okay, so no, yes. Is that you? There you go. I don't know. There we go. Okay.
All right, GNA would like to propose changing the sellback for unused sick leave for upon retirement, and changing it to no years minimum. Keeping everything else, but change it from 15 years to any number of years.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a teacher who's only been with the district 8 years. She had more than 50 days, but has not able to sell them back because she doesn't have the 15 years. So in her case, it's use it or lose it.
Well, she could sell back some at the end of the year under Section 7, of course. It would be fairly limited, but yes. Okay, so I don't have that language memorized. So you're just basically saying taking out the requirement to be 15 years or more to at any point or any years
Yeah.
of service.
At any years of service.
Okay. Board team, do you understand the request? All right, we'll just, as we go, we'll probably just have to table these until we can go back and consider them, but we understand the ask.
Yeah, it's you. Yeah, it is really cute. I won't take the mic.
Oh, that's a Jody thing to move the agenda forward, isn't it?
Come on up and help me, Leslie.
No, yeah, we've been doing that all day. No, because like, I mean, are we ready to talk about, because that was the only non-comp thing that we had, right? Yeah. So
Okay. You have compensation items you would like to or are prepared to present?
we do.
Okay.
We want to have a conversation about these items with a conversation about, and we realize, we had the budget overview last week and we had, we've had lots of good conversations about this in years past. But we want to have a conversation about these things today with an idea of what a budget will look like. Is that something that we'll be able to do today? Or are we going to be presenting these things and then tabling them for another meeting? Because we have 3 things to talk about that are pretty big things.
Clarification, you want to know our comp offers or?
I want to have a conversation about these things today.
Okay,
And in
I
the
do too.
past, when we've had these conversations, and we realize that might not be on the cards for today. We've had an offer, and then we've had some back and forth.
For sure.
I think what we're looking for is if there's even just a general idea of what our budget looks like, what this could potentially look like for next year. Not necessarily an offer, although we would love to have an offer today so that we could talk about this. But with what we have and what we want to have a really good conversation about, we have some creative things that we think would be good solutions for dealing with the financial stress that we know we and everybody are in right now. But I don't want that conversation to just stop after we've set it on the table. I want to be able to have a conversation about that, if that makes sense. I don't want to put something on the table and then have the conversation tabled for another 2 weeks.
Neither do we. So I think regardless of the sequence, you guys can trust that we're going to have that conversation, even if it involves a little bit back and forth, and of course the negotiations to get to the big ticket items like the salary schedule. I will tell you, we are prepared to provide a salary offer, and it includes that information I think you're asking. So what we probably can do is figure out how to get you just the budget piece without showing our offer, if that's what you want first.
No,
Okay.
Though that was what we were looking for.
Okay.
So I wanted the assurance that this would be a long meeting, is what I'm saying.
Well, that's a worthy goal. Let's try to be as efficient as possible.
I'm gonna miss bedtime tonight.
No.
Okay. All right. So then, knowing that, we're gonna talk about one of our notice items on our letter was about Section 4 extra duty pay.
Yep.
And we had a couple of Section 4s on there, but this one is about increasing the extra duty pay for employees. So our proposal for this is a little bit tied with also our Section 7, our annual discretionary leave. So there's sort of a 2-part thing here. So the proposal that we have for extra duty pay, increasing the time extra duty pay for employees, is instead of increasing the pay, we would like to have the district offer an equitable paid time off hour for hour. So 1 hour of extra duty for 1 hour of paid time off for employees. We've been having trouble filling some of these extra duty roles. One of the reasons that we've been having trouble filling these extra duty roles is that the rate of pay is not at a level that people are willing to sign up for. And also, money is one thing, but we've been talking about time for several years. that this would be a creative way to address the concerns of staff that want to fill these roles, but maybe don't find that rate of pay to be equitable for their services, while also addressing the concern that we're going to be in tight financial straits this year. And we have several compensation items on our list, and this might give us a way to address some of that without necessarily increasing the rate of pay. We're adding this in with the annual discretionary leave part of our proposal. There were two parts to that. So one of the things that we wanted to do was change the wording. Instead of what we currently have is discretionary leave plus a sick leave pool for an employee. So after those 10 days, then that rolls over into the next year into your sick leave pool. We want to create this one paid time off category. So that, and I'll go back to rationale for that in just a second. But the other aspect of that is, you have had an offer 2 meetings ago, I think, of increasing the number of discretionary days to 11 rather than 10. I think that was 2 meetings ago.
Yes.
And contingent on these negotiations regarding Section 4, the extra duty pay, and the wording to paid time off, we are ready to accept that offer of 11 PTO days, provided that we can have this conversation about maybe offering a PTO time for working extra duty. So we wanted to kind of include that in there as well. With regards to the paid time off, this took me a little while to understand, so forgive me if I'm saying things that are a little bit redundant. The way that it stands right now, if a teacher is using their discretionary leave, and they have those 10 days of discretionary leave, and then something comes up in that year. So they have to have a surgery scheduled, and they have to be gone for 2 weeks because they had a surgery and now they have to recover. The way that it's set up right now, we can't use that sick leave time until we've used discretionary time. And so if a teacher in September is gone for 2 weeks and takes those 10 days of discretionary leave off, then they no longer have discretionary leave. Now in March, if they want to take a day off because their kid has a game or they want to chaperone a trip with a preschool and they want to go to a zoo, now we've exhausted the ability to use those discretionary days for a discretionary reason. And it makes for some complicated, I'm just gonna say it, do I lie? Do I just kind of code this in as sick leave even though I know I'm going to the KC Zoo? And it makes for a really uncomfortable position for teachers to be in. Whereas if it's all just paid time off, then your 2 weeks of recovery from your surgery and your trip to the zoo with your kid are the same bag. Does that seem fair? Okay. Does that make sense? Did I clarify everything okay? Okay.
So you want us to respond?
Well, that's my item that I'm talking about.
One, do you have that in writing?
Yeah, I can give you a little bit of that.
Yeah, it'd
It's
be
not
helpful.
in color. Is that okay? I'm sorry.
That's not okay.
Okay.
This will be
Yeah,
pending
I
because it's
don't
not in
have a
color.
choice. Here, I'll just give you these.
No, if you please hand that to at least a couple of the BOE team members. That way, when we go back, we can make sure we
There should be enough there for everybody and Deb.
are reading from the right music.
And also, Mandy's is on there too. So that item.
Yeah, we'll save obviously, you guys know me. I have a response to this, but we'll hold it back till I can talk to the team.
That's why I
And-
prefaced it with my first question.
I do have a question, though. You do realize that if we do an extra duty hour and respond with an additional paid hour off, that's going to create more need for class coverage. I mean, you guys do understand that these asks are going to require more coverage, which you just, as part of your rationale, we're having a difficult time finding people to do that. And the other thing I would point out is the extra duty for class coverage is tied to column 1, step 1. So that rate of pay stays contemporary, stays up to date, and I would argue is it's certainly closer to probably what people would like to get paid when they do class coverage.
We're not talking about extra duty pay for class coverage.
Okay.
We're talking about the section of extra duty pay for
Group 8,
working
Group 4.
concessions or working
Group 4.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And I assume that's in your write-up there, or you're telling us that, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
4, part 2.
Okay? We'll have to consider that, so thank you.
All right. Another piece or another proposal we'd like to put is regarding an additional contract day for special education teaching staff. So the proposal is to provide that extended contract for 1 additional day at the individual's daily rate of pay to be implemented in the same way that like the extended contracts for counselors and school psychs are implemented. So what we're looking at is all that extra time that is required for the IEPs, for collaborating with general ed teachers, related service providers, families, doing those evals and re-evals, managing all that paperwork and reporting, eligibility and transition meetings, and that additional trainings that SPED staff, that when they go to special education specific training for special education specific functions, especially at the beginning of the year. So that additional contract day, we're hoping will provide special education staff and the district with some benefits like that time, most specifically at the beginning of the year for our special ed people to attend the meetings in their buildings, attend the special education meetings, and also have time to collaborate and get their room set up. There's a real shortage of time, and that makes that kickoff to the year a real hardship on people. They haven't had time to get their schedules figured out. They haven't had time to meet with the gen ed teachers to get all those pieces that then they can't go and get their room ready. So they're running behind from the very beginning. Or if it's implemented similar to counselors and school psychs, there might be, like if you look at the EC world, April has a lot of extra things and a lot of re-evals, a lot of kindergarten transitions, like the paperwork is mountainous. So somebody in the EC world might want to flex that day during that time to prep for all of that. So the goal is to help with staff retention. The goal is to help people fill their obligations to their profession, and then support those outcomes for students as we get going. So we do have this in writing. Again, it's not in color. Let's see, I think, oh, yep. I can go.
So essentially veteran staff 186 and new staff would also get it, would be 190 contract days.
Yeah, and I think it's really important probably for that new staff to have that time right.
Okay.
I mean, wherever they would need it, but maybe at the beginning of the year when they're trying to set up their room and figure out their building logistics and get all the schedules going.
Yeah. Board members or board team members, do you have any questions?
I did have a question. So I think I heard you say collaboration, all that with the teachers, but if it's a day early, teachers aren't going to be there. Correct? I guess maybe I'm just not understanding. Like I'm all for SPED teachers if you're talking about them coming a day early to get their rooms ready, to look at their caseloads, all that kind of stuff. But I thought you said some stuff about collaboration. How is that going to happen if they're not there yet?
When we all start our contract together, special educators are doing all the gen ed meetings, and then they're often pulled into, well, not often, we are pulled into special education specific training during that same time. So there isn't time to meet with other people during that time. There isn't time to set up your room. So one of the ways to front load that is for them to maybe do some of their room setup and looking at hopefully building schedules, maybe to get at least a base so that when everybody does pour back into the buildings, they can start meeting with their feet on the ground rather than swimming from behind or drowning.
I have a couple questions. Well, a question and then I'll make a point. So it says provide special education teaching staff, and you may have said this at the beginning, does not include related service providers that don't have an extra day like school psych. So this does not include SLPs, OTs, PTs, or does it?
We had everybody. So teaching staff, I considered when I drafted that, it was considering,
Certified special ed staff.
yeah.
Okay.
I hesitated to use the word certified because I know some people are working towards a special education certification, but yes, essentially filling those roles.
So under contract, okay. And then I know you guys know this, but I'd point this out for the board team. Our special ed staff can access up to 4 paperwork days during the school year. So just so you know, that's already built in the negotiated agreement. A special ed teacher can say, I need to call a timeout. I'm not going to serve my students. We need to get a sub so they can work on paperwork and some of these things. Now, that's during the school year, of course, and I think isn't exactly what you're asking for, or is in addition to that. That's what the ask is.
So it would be an addition, and I would say that we actually surveyed our special ed staff.
Okay.
And so one of the things that they talked about is, yes, they know that those days are available, but it's very hard to use those days because they're in there with the kids and trying to get someone there to cover and to do what they have to do. It's just added more work. It's not that they're not appreciative of the days, but if you would look at the number of ones that actually use those days, I don't think it's as many as you think. And so we were trying to give them some buffer time. Like, for example, for Bev, in the spring of the year, that's key for her to actually have that time. For a lot of our teachers, it's at the very beginning of the year so that they can get that other stuff done. We did have a conflict this year with our not new teacher training, but when we all came back, there was a sped PD that was going on, which means they missed their actual building component. So there was a little hiccup in that component. So we're just trying to give them the time that they need so that they can get that component done, so that when we're actually all together, they can get their building things required as well and talk to the staff.
I don't know that I expected you guys to do this, but did you put a dollar figure on this?
No.
Okay,
Did
we
not
can
have
do
the
that.
dollar figure
We-
yet.
We can do that.
Yeah, and I think one of the places where it's probably most needed that's different from the day during the year, or the day,
Paperwork
the
days,
quarterly,
yeah.
is that beginning of the year pace where to kick off the year. Although some people may need it in a different place of the year depending on their roles, so we didn't tie it just to the beginning of the year.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Like
So it is not,
like the EC staff, they don't have to do this. They don't have to coordinate with all the gen ed teachers because we are both roles. But the specialized programs and the IR teachers, they have a lot of scheduling to do and not enough time to do it at the beginning to get their programs started in a meaningful way.
so good clarification. You are not saying this needs to be at the beginning of the school year and needs to be ahead of New Teacher Academy, or Welcome Week, whatever you call it, or convocation. You're saying it could be flexible like a counselor or a school psych has.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna say. It's gonna be just like the librarians have extra days, the counselors have extra
Okay.
days. They can use it at the front, they
Land
can
it
use it
where
at
they
the
need
back.
to,
Yep.
as long as they're talking to admin. Yep. And then I agree with you, Angela. You make a good point. We do understand those paperwork days in the middle of the year put pressure on case managers and providers because of minutes and seeing kids. So we understand that. I would push back. I do think a lot of sped staff do use it and have taken advantage of it, and it's been a good thing. Okay, any other questions? Clarification? Okay, other items you guys have to share?
That's me. So we were going to look at supplementals, and so one of the things that we were going to look at, besides what we just noted on here, is that we went through and looked at all the supplementals that are offered, and each elementary school varies from 5 supplementals to 7 to 8, and then the middle school has 51. Pioneer Ridge has 51, Trail Ridge has 62, Wheat Ridge has 59, and the high school has 186. And so when we were looking at that, and we were talking in general, just as our group, we were looking at the course, the descriptions of of those particular jobs. And so when I went to the web page and I looked at the descriptions, the job descriptions that are there, we have 48 that don't have a description, and then we have some descriptions that seem to be they're the ones you did in 2016 that have basically the same kind of format with information on there. And one of the things that we were wanting to know is that when we're looking at supplementals here, who gets to have input on what goes into that supplemental, as in the duties of those supplementals and where they fall on the pay scale. So that was one thing that we wanted to address on that component. Another thing is that we wanted to add another step because we have some people that are all the way over. And so once again, those duties don't decrease, they tend to increase over a period of time. So we want to actually keep those sponsors and those coaches. So if we are able to add another step there, that would actually help them as well. Yep, that's all. Everything I have on
Okay,
my
so I understand the second request, add a step for the supplementals. It's a column technically.
Right.
As far as the first part, Angela, I think the cleaning up the job description is separate from this process. I can
Okay.
describe how it's been handled since I took over in 2014. There weren't any or very few job descriptions.
Right.
And so as they came up, I went in and looked at what was on paper and then put it in a common format. So as far as the duties and responsibilities, and some of them have average time commitment or estimated time commitment, I took what was on paper. Oftentimes I did reach out to someone that was in that position or a building admin and got input. As far as the ones after that, those have been based on a request to add it.
Right.
And when we go through that process, and you guys know this, we've probably had a year or two of a baseline where someone did it with extra duty and kind of scooped up and understood the time commitment and roles and responsibilities. So I would tell you the person involved, the person doing it, and the building admin have had input into what's gone into the position description in the last 10 or 11 years.
Okay.
Is there work to do? Absolutely. To be completely honest, I don't know that every actual position in this district has an up-to-date job description. We've got a whole bunch of them, not just supplementals, I mean
Right.
anything. And when something comes open and we have to post it, we go and look and then we clean it up as we go, and made a lot of progress. But as far as cleaning up the job description, making sure something is on file or supplemental position description, we can do that outside of this. That's not going to get cleaned up in the next, few months. So I understand what you're saying. And then if we go that route, the person in that job, concessions manager at the middle school, is going to have input into what goes in there and what the time commitment looks like and the roles and responsibilities. They may not get everything they're asking for or suggest, but they're going to have input. And then, of course, I want building administrators to look at it, whether it's an AD, assistant principal, or principal.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. Thank you.
But understand the ask. Do you have any other supplemental like positions you want to propose, or is that later? Specific things?
We'll do that later.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to share?
I believe we're done.
Okay. Well, I think that I need to request a caucus with board members so we can talk about the things you presented, which is great stuff, and then talk about how much further we want to go with possibly a comp offer. Before we do that, I do want to let everybody know that, spoiler alert, we want to put as much as we can into compensation, the certified salary schedule. So that's a prelude to everything we talk about moving forward, guys. That has the most impact for the most people, and it's tied to several other things that we've worked through over the last couple of years that keep things like class coverage, it keeps that up to date, and the supplemental salary schedule. So I just kind of share that with you guys as kind of a prelude to what's coming next. That's going to be our point of emphasis. Obviously, we're going to give fair consideration to everything else you're asking for, though. Okay? 15 minutes. Yep.
So I don't remember if it was said out loud, so if I'm repeating something, I'm sorry. But in the consideration for the hour for hour with extra duty pay, one of the things we looked at was the compensation for extra duty and the compensation for the cost of a sub to make that as cost neutral as possible. So just one of the things to put out there to consider.
Let's reconvene at 4:45-ish, please. Thank you. caucus. If there's anybody in the viewing audience, the delay was we asked for an additional 15 minutes to take us to 5. So thank you, G&A, for accommodating that. We are prepared to respond to what you've proposed today. Start with the good news. We are comfortable taking Section 9B, paid for unused sick leave for retirees, dropping that down to 5 years with the requirement of having 360 hours or 45 days banked. I will tell you that syncs up with what already is available in Section 7, and you guys probably know that, but so essentially someone will have to be here at least 5 years to meet that requirement in the retirement section. Are we on the same page there? I mean, do you understand that? I'm sorry. I know you asked for 0, so I guess we're modifying our response or a counter proposal for your consideration. Questions? Part of our logic, guys, is you got to be here a number of years to rack up some leave to sell back. So being here 1 year or 2 years, we just really don't think there's a reasonable way to set that up for them to sell back anything meaningful. Okay. Extra duty pay, extra duty hours worked, translating to additional paid time off. We respectfully decline that. We just think that that's a very creative ask and understand what you're trying to accomplish, but I'm not sure we can support that, and a lot of moving parts, and the management of it makes us a little nervous. So I don't know if that undermines probably the other things you had under discretionary leave. And so our response to the other things you're asking about, changing the classification, making it all paid time off, we respectfully decline that, and we would refer you back to our proposal to convert the wellness day to another discretionary day, giving all certified staff 11 discretionary days. Additional contract day for sped staff. We respectfully decline that. I do think it's important for the members and the audience to understand this has been discussed with special ed administration, and so their opinion has been considered in our response. Supplementals, we understand the ask to add a column and your rationale, but we respectfully decline adding a column to supplemental salary schedule. Our hope is to put as much as possible in the certified salary schedule, which we all know then trickles through the supplemental salary schedule. Questions or comments from any of the team members relative to those items? Or follow-up thoughts? I guess I left out, we did do the math on the additional day for special ed staff, and based on current salaries, when we add in payroll tax, it's north of $35,000, which doesn't account for raises that would be given. Okay, at this time we would like to present our initial compensation offer, which will include a pretty brief summary of what we anticipate the budget to be, but also what we would intend to offer to add to the certified staff salary schedule. So Amy D is going to pass that around, and then I'll give her, or she'll take the microphone and walk us through that.
I'm sorry, I don't have this for the screen. I can pull it up. I can share it with Jody if you wanted to look at it that way. But our initial offer is $1,500 on the base and a step. In addition to that, we have been listening, and we wanted to offer a new column for our related service providers, those that are in those longer programs to get their certification. And that is listed below. That would include school psychologists, speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, behavior specialists that have a BCBA. What that would do is they would move to what was originally the column 11 if they weren't already there or beyond. If you look on the back, I have the new salary schedule proposed. Anyone that was in the specialist or what was column 11 would move to column 12, and we would create a new column 13 for anyone with a doctorate. And we use that same spread that were in those columns from before. So again, trying to honor those that have been with us for quite some time and have really put that time and effort into their profession. We know that that's an area that we were definitely behind other districts. So those are some of the things that are part of this proposal. So we have put a decent amount of the funding, everyone $1,500 plus the step, but then those specific areas would be touched a little bit more. If you look at the information that's on here, I do have for you the anticipated new funding with the base state aid is about $1.3 million for next year. Right now, our attrition savings is almost $1 million at $998,000. And then we do have some additional revenue adjustments from our state aid that we are including, and some budget moves, some things that we've done to try to just shore up a little bit more funding, which is about $2.3 million is the bucket we're working with for all increases across the district. So you can see in there, I've broken it down for what would the certified base increase be, and that does include the step, by the way. The supplemental increase, that would be part of changing that base salary, and so those are percentage-based, as you know. And then the budgeted salary movement, this is a little higher than it's been in previous years. We have a lot of folks that are doing letters training, and that is allowing people to move on the salary schedule, and we actually did exceed that this year, which is fantastic for our employees. But we wanted to make sure that we were keeping that in mind, that there are quite a few folks that are going to be eligible for that. And then I have to take into account, unfortunately, the FICA Medicare unemployment that the district has to pay on everyone's behalf. That's a 7.75% of those three numbers above. And then we're also throwing in there, and this is not part of the percentage calculation below, but I just wanted you to see the commitment that we're putting in for the contribution increase for just the certified staff for our benefits for 2026. So the total amount that is on there is a little over $1.6 million, which is just a shade over 50% of that new funding that we're anticipating. This would be and I calculated this on returning staff only. This amount with the step and the $1,500 would be a 3.74% increase for our returning certified staff. The related service providers column, it's actually a 10% increase for those affected individuals. And then these two numbers are just our targets. The board will obviously make the final decision of classified being a little bit over what certified staff are, just because they make a lot less, and then administrative staff being a little bit lower than that, which has been our practice the last couple of years. It does retain the SPED hard to fill stipends for staff that are returning, also prorated by their FTE. However, it is, we are also saying that for any newly hired staff, whether you're a related service provider or a certified staff member, you would get a $1,000 stipend. So those that have been here and are returning to us would be grandfathered in, and they would receive like the $2,000 that's been for related service providers on top of that column move. And so paras would also retain the $750. Questions?
Any school psychologists that are watching this, you don't have anything to worry about. You're not in that column. You're going to be in column 11, where you've always been. So
Yes.
that was an error on my part. I should have caught that.
Well, yeah.
So they're moving over. You're right. So they'll
Yeah,
be impacted.
they're moving over another column, so not, they're also getting that little, and they're
Well,
going to the specialist column, what used to be the specialist column. So,
And the sped staff hard to fill stipend, recognize they are vital team members, and it has been, no secret, harder to hire and retain them. But at some point we have to roll back some of this, and so that's the logic for new folks getting a little bit less. At some point we have to unwind that, and we do think that we are having better luck getting applicants for open positions, so we think that situation has improved.
I think it's on now. I think we're going to need a little bit of time to talk, so 15 minutes. Is that okay? All right.
Sounds good.
What time is it?
Okay, we're back together.
Sure not. All right, we'd like to come back with some, with multiple counters.
Okay.
The first one related to the extra duty pay trading time for time. We'd like to put back another counter to limit that to up to 24 hours. That would be our counter in that area.
I'm assuming that's within a school year, of course.
Yes.
Okay, we'll let's pause on that one, and we'll think about it probably in relation to some other things that you present.
Okay, and then sort of the same topic on that, we're seeking some clarification on the rationale for the declining of changing discretionary leave and sick leave to PTO.
The rationale is we feel like the current model is appropriate. As you'll recall, whatever it was, 2015, 2016, there was a distinction between personal days and sick leave, and we converted them all to discretionary leave in an attempt to treat the membership more as professionals and give you discretion. And so we felt like that was appropriate. And then, as everyone knows, you are required to use those first. And the rationale for that is even if unfortunately you're sick earlier in the year, first semester, you do have to use discretionary leave first. And the fear is, although it's uncommon, that if you're able to use bank sick leave first, then you have all this discretionary leave that you might use in spring, which is a more difficult time to find subs and do coverage. So that's the rationale. It's been the rationale as far as I can remember since we first rolled this out. And as, again, most people know, if someone in that scenario is sick in first semester, whatever, and uses most or all of their discretionary leave, and they need or they want to go to the zoo or take a personal day or discretionary day, there is a mechanism in the negotiated agreement allowing them to do that. So they can borrow up to 2 days from the previous year. Again, if it's something special or it's a hardship. So we feel like some of those triggers are already in the negotiated agreement. So we feel like it's working. And again, referring back to our offer, take the wellness day, which wasn't working perfectly, created some other issues, and turning it into a discretionary day is a response to your request to have another discretionary day. So that's our proposal and that's our rationale.
Okay, I'll keep the mic. We have a counter to the declining of the extended contract days for special education employees. So our counter to this is, what if we restrict it to the beginning of the year? So having that day be at the beginning of the year for scheduling, reviewing IEP behavior plans, preparing the classroom for students. One of the things that I think is the most important as a general ed teacher is when I have those meetings with special ed teachers in those first couple of days back after summer, and they're telling me about the kids that I've got and what their IEPs look like and what kinds of modifications and accommodations I need to have for them. So giving those SPED teachers that ability to have that day before they come and talk to me, or, which happens sometimes, having them come and talk to me 3 days into the year when I've already met my kid and they're already sitting in the back of the room, and now I gotta move things around a little bit because we haven't yet had time to. So we're just requesting that maybe instead of having that just be either at the beginning or at the end, we restrict it to the beginning of the year to allow for all of that movement and everything, and we think that that would be money well spent.
When you reference the $35,000, I think it also reflects what we're trying to do for your number 4 and your number 5. SPED staff, we've had issues. And so we're just trying to help them so that they can do their job. And like I said, we do have data on, when we reached out to our SPED crew to ask about the things that they needed. And so we're just trying to help provide them to be able to do their job more efficiently, as well as help the beginning of the school year not be so hectic.
Thank you.
I'm going to talk about the sellback upon retirement.
Uh-huh.
We will accept that, the 5 years and the 45 days. We think it's a great win for the district and the teachers because now we're more motivated to save our days since you can sell them back for some of our later hired teachers that have been in the district not as long but are at the end of their career. So we think it's a great motivation for us and a great win for both district and teachers.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
No response to the compensation offer?
Nope.
Okay. Board members, board team members, any follow-up questions or thoughts? I'd like to request till 5:45 so we could maybe craft a response to some of your counteroffers and talk about what we want to do next. So if we can caucus till 5:45, I'd appreciate that. before we respond to your counteroffers, I just would, and I know you guys know this, remind folks that our notice item about curriculum, school improvement credit, and changing the rate of pay for that is still pending. So when you guys get around to that, providing a response to that. As it relates to your counter proposals, respectfully decline the extra duty for the accumulation of up to 24 hours of paid leave. I'm just not comfortable with that, guys. And would be a real challenge to manage, and so we're just not comfortable with that for the reasons we've already articulated. The extended contract day for special ed staff, we understand your amended proposal to land it at the beginning of the year. We would just like more time to consider that one. Okay. I think that covers it, right? I think we're at a point where we need to schedule the next meeting. So if everybody can get their calendars out. I'd like to take advantage of the momentum we created tonight and get something on the schedule sooner than later. Oh.
I just want to clarify to those who are watching, and for my notes later, because I go back and I rewatch these. We would like we still want to come back and work on some other counters to the declining of these things. So we're like we want to still have this conversation. So like we do need to come back another meeting, but we're not done with these things that we still have. I think we feel like these things are really important to talk about, and really like some different things that we need to have conversations about. And I think we just like there are things, and we also still have a couple things that we didn't address. So we just want to make sure that everybody understands that we're still going to come back next time and kind of give some new proposals for some of these things. So fair enough?
We look forward to that.
Okay.
I think for both teams in the audience, if it doesn't say agreement by it, it's still in play.
Right.
So we know that as well. Okay. Does anybody want to throw out a good date while I'm trying to figure out how to operate my phone?
April 24th. We're ready.
April 24th is a Thursday, correct? Yeah, and somebody just moved a tech committee to that night because of another conflict, so.
Monday the 21st.
Works for me, but
What do you got?
Monday, April 21st.
How about the 22nd?
Okay, I'm sorry, what date are we looking at? 21st or the 22nd?
I think more of our team can try for the 22nd than the 21st. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Wow, look at that. That's fun. That looks terrible.
No,
Well, yeah. Okay.
Monday, April 21st, 4 o'clock.
Yep.
Okay, let's lock it in. You guys need any data? You need any information while we're together? I know you'll ask later on if something comes to mind, but anything you guys need? Nope. Okay. Any other last thoughts, comments, or questions? Okay, grateful for everybody's time and attention. Have a good night.